But even as a student, both in high school and then at the university and undergraduate school, you are seeking and receiving leadership positions. Now, can you remember motivation here? Is race a part of it, or is it simply the desire to be in a position to make some change?
I liked politics. It was part of it. It was just, I didn't think, I thought you should not just sit around and do nothing, that you should do something. I just always wanted to make things better. At the University of Michigan, the student legislature, before we were slapped down the second time, was really a vital part of the university campus, and I found it very attractive, and so I ran very early. And all my black friends thought I was quite weird, but...
It's hard for my students to understand, but there was a time when there were much more vigorous student politics on the college campus than there appear to be today.
Even in the 50s.
Yes.
You know, they called us the silent generation, but yeah.
So what was your black friend's reaction? I cut you off there.
Well, we lived a segregated life, really. You know, you talk to white people in the classroom, and that's about all. And they said, oh, man, Roger's running for student government. That is a weird thing to do. But then Roger's weird anyway, because this was still, I was now making the transition from this virtual white person who I'd become in high school back into a black person, and that weirdness was apparent. And so, you know, my black friends loved me and they teased me for it, but they, you know, they thought I was kind of weird to do that.
And obviously they supported you, I'm guessing, or you might not have won.
And when I ran for president of the class in my junior year and for the president of senior class, I mean, they were just proud. I mean, they just thought this was wonderful.
All right. And then you go to law school, and it's the year after you get to law school that Brown is decided. You go in 53,
I think it was decided my freshman year.
Okay. And what is law school like? I imagine the black percentage is even smaller than in the undergraduate college.
I think there are only 3 black people in my class, I think.
Now, did you get from the faculty members, all of whom are white, that you are expected to use this tool to become a leadership figure?
Yeah. Because I was not a good student in undergraduate school, and I didn't expect to go to graduate school. I think I expected to become a journalist, but there was a girl who was still there at Michigan. Well, I went to this unit. I don't think the Korean War was still on when I finished college. And nobody knew when it was going to be over. The stalemate was on. And I was either going to get drafted or I was going to do something else. Well, I was a hot rodder, still am. And so I wanted to fly airplanes. And it was really hard to get into the Air Force as a pilot. But I volunteered. I went down to Chanute Air Force Base in Illinois. And there were 100 guys all trying to get into the Air Force and fly. And the first day they gave us a physical exam. At the end of that, 50 guys were gone. The second day, they gave us a mental exam. At the end of that, another 44 guys were gone. It means 94% of this group is washed out. The next day, it was just easy, link trainers, and do you have coordination and stuff like that. Well, it's kind of a half athlete. That was easy for me. Except they could only take 5 at a time, and my name was last on the list by alphabet. And so the first guys had to go, and by now we're bonded, you know, I mean, we're the survivors.
Yeah.
And so I just teased them to death because I got an extra hour to sleep. And so they got there at 6:30, and they got through. And I got there, I was supposed to be there at 7:30, and I got there at 28 after 7. Sergeant in charge says, "What do you want?" And I said, "I'm here for my..." The guys had finished, and I met him on the way, and he said, "You're late." I said, "I'm not late. It's 7:28. There's a big clock on the wall." He said, "You are too late. I'm not doing it. And I said, well, when can I do it again? Thinking maybe at 9:30.
Right.
He said, next Wednesday. This is Saturday.
Right.
I said, what? I said, I'm not late. It's now 6:29. You're late, he says. He does, not looking at the clock. And so we argue some more. And I can see another guy is there. He's really uncomfortable with this. White guy, corporal or something. And then by that time, it's 7:31. We're still arguing. He looks at the clock. He said, you're late, see? He said, leave. I'm not doing this for you. And so I leave, and I hear the other guy say something to him. And the guy says, and I'm now thinking, will I stay on this base by myself until? And the guy says, I'm not going to run this thing just for a nigger. That was it. The television cameras are on. Will not say what I said you could do to your Air Force.
Yeah.
But I left, and then I went, since this girl was still back there, I went back to Ann Arbor and said, well, can I go to graduate school or law school? And I took the tests, and they admitted me both into graduate school and law school. I went to law school. I was angry. I mean, that anger, but I had not intended to go to law school. I hadn't gotten grades for law school. I did very well on the LSAT. And at some point, I was not figuring out things very well, and I went to my contracts teacher and asked him, well, he explained what was going on in class that day, and then I just, for reassurance, I said, well, Professor Harvey, you know, he was the admissions officer. I said, I think probably I have one of the lowest GPAs in the class, hoping he'd say, oh, no. He'd say, he said, yes, Mr. Wilkins, that's true. Well, and then I got indignant. I said, well, what'd you let me in here for? And he said to me, because the University of Michigan has, we think here at the law school we have a responsibility to educate black leaders because the black race needs leaders. And so we were able to check with people in the undergraduate school, and they told us that if you hadn't done all these other things, you could have been a superb student, so we let you in. But you have to do work. If you don't do the work, we'll flunk you out. But that was explicit. University of Michigan feels a responsibility to educate black leaders.
And you were selected by virtue of your applying as a potential leadership figure, and this law school training would certify you as, or give you the equipment, the tools you needed to be this leadership figure.